Can I fix it for food? The words on the cardboard looked simple, almost desperate. The letters were written in shaky strokes, as if the man's hands trembled when he held the marker. He sat on the corner of a busy street, wearing torn jeans, a faded jacket, and shoes that had seen better days. His hair was messy, his beard untrimmed, and his eyes carried the weight of countless sleepless nights. To most people passing by, he looked like just another homeless man trying to survive. But instead of sympathy, he received laughter. A group of teenagers pointed at his sign and burst out laughing. Fix it for food? What's he gonna fix, a sandwich? One of them mocked. Another added, yeah, right. This guy probably doesn't even know how to hold a screwdriver. Their cruel jokes echoed as they walked away, leaving behind the man's quiet figure. Others didn't laugh, but they weren't kind either. They just ignored him completely as if he didn't exist. People stepped around him, avoiding eye contact, clutching their bags a little tighter. Still, the man didn't argue. He didn't beg. He simply kept holding up his sign, waiting for someone who might give him a chance. Deep down, he knew something the world around him didn't. His hands, though dirty and worn, once held the steering wheel of roaring machines. His mind, though weary, once calculated speeds and turns that few dared attempt. But now, all people saw was a tired man with a cardboard sign. And so, the city passed him by, mocking or ignoring him, not knowing that hidden beneath those ragged clothes was a legend, whose story had not yet ended. The afternoon sun beat down on the street, making the air heavy and uncomfortable. Cars honked in the distance, and people rushed past without slowing down. Among the noise and movement, a young mechanic named Jake struggled to push a motorcycle that had broken down. His face was red with frustration, and sweat dripped from his forehead as he muttered under his breath. Not today. Not again, Jake grumbled. His shop was barely surviving, and he couldn't afford another setback. He needed this bike running. It belonged to a customer who was already threatening not to pay. As Jake wrestled with the stubborn machine, the homeless man with the cardboard sign watched quietly from his corner. He had seen many people walk by, but something about this young man's struggle made him stand up. His movements were slow, stiff from sleeping on hard sidewalks, but his eyes sharpened with focus the moment they landed on the motorcycle. "Son," the man said in a calm, steady voice, "if you let me take a look, maybe I can fix it." Jake froze, glancing up at the ragged stranger. For a moment, he almost laughed. "You fix this?" "No offense, but I don't think so." The man didn't flinch. He simply repeated, "Let me try. You've got nothing to lose." Something about the way he spoke, not desperate, but confident, made Jake hesitate. He studied the man's hands, scarred and rough, yet steady as stone. Against his better judgment, Jake sighed. "All right, if you can fix it, I'll buy you a meal. But if you break it worse, you're paying me back," Jake joked, shaking his head. From the crowd that had gathered, someone snickered, "This'll be funny." But the joke was about to be on them. The homeless man knelt beside the motorcycle, brushing his rough hands over the frame as if he had done it 1,000 times before. His fingers, though calloused and dirty, moved with surprising confidence. The crowd that had gathered leaned in, expecting a disaster. "Careful, old man," someone laughed. "Don't break it more than it already is." But the man ignored the jeers. He bent low, studying the machine like a doctor examining a patient. He touched the carburetor, twisted a bolt, and tapped the fuel line gently. His movements were quick but precise, nothing like the fumbling of someone guessing. Every adjustment seemed purposeful, every sound of the engine telling him a story only he could understand. Jake crossed his arms, skeptical but curious. He'd spent hours trying to figure out the problem, and yet this stranger seemed to know exactly where to look. Then the man straightened up, wiped the grease on his jacket, and nodded. "Try it now," he said simply. Jake hesitated, then turned the key and kicked the starter. For a moment, nothing. The crowd chuckled, but then, "Vroom!" The engine roared to life, smooth and powerful, as if it had never been broken. Gasps spread through the onlookers. "No way," one whispered. "Did he really just fix that thing?" Another muttered, eyes wide. Jake's jaw dropped. He revved the engine, stunned by how clean it sounded. This wasn't luck. This man knew machines like the back of his hand. "Sir," Jake said, grinning in disbelief, "that's incredible. How did you even know what to do?" The man smiled faintly, his eyes shining with a mix of pride and sorrow. "Son," he said quietly, "machines, they've been my whole life." That night, Jake couldn't stop thinking about the stranger who had fixed his motorcycle with such ease. Most people would have chalked it up to luck, but Jake had seen the man's hands. Steady, confident, almost instinctive. That kind of skill didn't come from guessing. It came from years, maybe decades of experience. Curiosity got the better of him. Jake opened his phone, typed in a few details the man had mentioned. Richard, lightning, racing. What appeared on the screen left him speechless. There he was. Richard Lightning Lawson. Old newspaper clippings, yellowed photographs, and grainy videos popped up. Richard wasn't just skilled. He was a legend. A fearless driver who once tore through dirt tracks and asphalt, circuits at breathtaking speeds. They called him Lightning because he was fast, daring, and unpredictable. A man who could make cars dance on the edge of disaster. Jake leaned closer, scrolling through articles. Richard had won countless races, broken track records, and even stood on championship podiums. But the story took a darker turn. After a horrific crash, sponsors pulled out. Medical bills piled up. Betrayals by friends and managers drained his finances. Within a few years, the man who once held trophies was left holding nothing. Jake's chest tightened. The man the world now laughed at had once been celebrated by thousands. The next day, Jake approached him with a new respect. "Why didn't you tell anyone who you were?" "You're a legend!" he asked almost angrily. Richard only gave a weary chuckle. "Son, out here on the streets, nobody cares about who you used to be. Out here, you're just another hungry man with a sign." But Jake cared, and soon the world would too. Jake couldn't keep Richard's secret hidden. The world needed to know the truth about the man sitting on that street corner. So one day, he recorded a video. He filmed Richard at the shop, fixing bikes and cars with the same brilliance he had shown on the broken motorcycle. Then Jake told Richard's story to the camera, the fall of a racing legend, the man behind the cardboard sign. He uploaded it with the title, "Homeless Man Turns Out to Be Racing Legend." Within hours, the video began to spread. By the next day, it had thousands of views, then millions. People were stunned. Comments poured in. "Wait, I used to watch him race when I was a kid. This man's a hero. How could we let him end up like this?" Respect to Richard Lightning Lawson, a true legend. The laughter that once followed Richard on the streets was replaced by admiration. Old racing fans tracked him down. Journalists wanted interviews. Even sports networks reached out, eager to feature his comeback story. Soon, Richard wasn't just fixing machines for food anymore. He was invited to speak at events, where he shared his journey of glory, loss, and resilience. Young racers looked up to him, hanging on every word of advice. Some even called him their mentor. And then one special day, he was honored at a racing event, brought back to the track where he had once made history. The crowd stood and cheered as his name was announced. Not as a homeless man, but as Lightning Lawson, the legend who never truly lost. The people who once mocked him now lowered their heads in shame. Because Richard's life had proven one powerful truth. Never judge a person by their appearance. Greatness can be hidden in the most unexpected places. If this story inspired you, make sure to hit that like button, share it with someone who needs to hear it today, and subscribe to the channel for more powerful stories just like this one. And don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Thank you for watching. Until next time, stay inspired.